You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then. I'll bite your legs off!
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility.
We have a hope.
Get to the chopper!
And they...
As the flesh wound, I am the father. His power is unequaled. His battles are legendary. His return is near.
This could be the end of civilization.
Get ready
I've spotted him.
for the 23rd big screen appearance of the world's biggest star. Godzilla! From Tristar Pictures and Toho Company Limited. Catch the ultimate showdown
It's an alien.
where winner takes all. Godzilla 2000. If you can't take the heat, run.
And welcome back to the 50th episode of the Monster Movie Stompdown. This is Sludge, right across from me,
Mark.
and our brother from Texas.
Ruben.
Man, guys, we have made it 50 episodes.
Doing good.
Yeah. So we have talked
Yeah.
People Zero off about monster movies for quite some time now. We've made this far. I think that's pretty good.
Hey, we started out the B team. We moved up.
Oh, definitely.
We're varsity level now. So we're doing good.
Yeah.
Varsity level all the way. Pretty stoked about this one. So this is the first episode of 2021, and it's going to be a good year. We got a lot of cool things planned, and of course, we're going to have a lot of great movies. This month, of course, we're doing this episode, Godzilla 2000, and the next episode is going to be Colossal by request of Justin McLean, and that'll be interesting because none of us have seen the entire movie. Or anything of the movie. So that'll be fun. A nice fresh film for us to watch.
Well, I don't know. I'm starting to rethink Colossal because Justin is corrupting people with his Godzilla 98 propaganda.
he really is.
Okay. I'm like, you know what? We shouldn't reward that kind of behavior. We just shouldn't.
Excuse me. No, not at all. I mean, he's already, taking my daughter to the dark side. I'm blaming Justin for it.
I'm telling
Justin's
you,
getting the reputation.
Yep, definitely.
After I heard that story, it keeps me up at night. I'm telling you, I wake up with night terrors 3 a.m. after hearing that. I'm afraid. I'm afraid that he might get to RJ or something, and I just, I couldn't bear it. Couldn't bear it at all.
That's what it is, Justin. You're going after our children.
Yeah.
You can't get us, so he's getting the kids.
Yeah.
He tried to persuade us.
He did.
It just didn't work. It didn't work.
Yeah.
But that's all right. So, we've got a good one this episode, man. So Toho is redeeming us from the travesty of Godzilla 98 with Godzilla 2000.
Wait a minute.
What do you mean, wait a minute?
You've got to tell the viewers or the listeners what happened.
For those who didn't see it on the Sludgecast page, because we posted this publicly, if you were aware.
That was on.
I was.
So it was up there. But for those who missed it, Mark, for Christmas this year.
Oh, no. That's not what I was referring to. Travesty that you tried to pull on me. I was talking about your falling asleep and waking up
Oh, okay.
Waking up to what you thought was paradise. You know?
No, I definitely did not think it was paradise. I thought I was having a nightmare.
Paradise Lost.
Yes.
He was in Dante's Inferno. He's one of the 7 circles.
Well, sure. I'll tell that after we let the listeners know
Okay,
because they need to make sure and
Yeah.
go to
Okay.
Facebook and see this. Mark got a great present for Christmas. He got his very first '98 Godzilla figure
Oh, yeah.
for Christmas,
Yeah.
and he's joined the club now. So
Yeah.
he can't give me and Ruben a hard anymore because
Oh yeah. No.
he's part of it.
No, it's no longer with us. It's gone away, and it's just not. It no longer exists. So
I'm sure it's there.
I don't know.
I never made it into to the club, and definitely happy about it. So
You know, I don't know, Mark, because I don't know. I don't remember the title of this Twilight Zone episode where this guy gets a doll and tries to destroy, and it's a girl's doll, and the dad's trying to destroy it, and every time he tries, it just comes back.
well,
It keeps coming back.
let's
So,
just pray that don't
you know.
happen. Don't happen.
It's secretly
you know,
under his
it's one of the classic Twilight Zone episodes. I just don't remember the title. So I wouldn't put it past that Godzilla '98 figure.
It'll come back
with
bigger and bigger and bigger each
Bigger
time.
and bigger. Yeah.
Oh,
There you go.
gosh.
So, but we videotaped it for everybody to see. So
Oh, that's
if you hop
wrong.
on
Yeah,
over to the
very
Sledgecast
wrong.
Facebook page, of course you'll get to see that awesome, great Christmas memory that we had this year. But yeah, so on top of that, what Mark was referencing to is I sat down this week to watch Godzilla 2000, the movie that we are going to be reviewing. And I had a long weekend with very, very little sleep, and then 2 extremely long days, Monday and Tuesday. So I finally got the chance to sit down last night, Wednesday night, to watch this movie. I was exhausted, utterly exhausted. And I was sitting in my double-sized recliner that I got from Mark. Thanks, Mark. And I was sitting up. I was like, let me just kind of lay over a little. That was a bad idea. I made it like 10 minutes into the film. I was out. And I'm not saying this is a bad film at all. I'm definitely not saying that. It's just I was that exhausted. But so my wife comes in the room at like 12:30 and wakes me up. And she's like, babe, get up. Let's just go to bed. I'm like, okay. Well, then I look at the screen, to turn off the movie, and Godzilla 98 was on. And I said, what's going on? And she's like, what? I'm like, am I awake or is this a nightmare? I was like, I fell asleep watching Godzilla 2000, not this.
Yeah.
I blame Flex.
I don't believe. Mark, do you believe that?
I do
Mark?
not believe
don't.
any of that.
I
In
don't.
fact,
No, I don't.
he probably fell asleep watching Titanic again, and then
And-
switched
yeah.
over
Well, I
to
mean,
98.
if I want a good
98.
night's rest or I can't sleep, I'll throw that on and it'll put me right to sleep. That's
and so you wake up to Godzilla 98.
That's
so.
it was a travesty.
Yeah.
I was living a nightmare. But so now we're on to the Godzilla 2000. So and I'm pretty stoked about this one. After the reception that the 98 film got, Toho, who had planned originally to take at least a 10 to 15 year hiatus or break from Godzilla after Godzilla's Destroya, they realized we can't do that anymore because TriStar sucks and we have to come make a movie. And so they quickly rushed a film in. And when I mean quickly, it was pretty quick. Godzilla 98 came out obviously in May of 98. Godzilla 2000 came out December of the following year, 1999. So about a year and a half, and they were putting another Godzilla film out with Godzilla 2000 Millennium was the actual Japanese name. This was the next Godzilla film, and unfortunately the last Godzilla film to be brought to theaters here in America. Sony TriStar did still have their contract with TriStar in regards to Godzilla at the time, so they were able to bring it over here, dubbed it, and brought it out here August of 2000, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And it did decently well. They were only expecting the movie to make 12 to 15 million, something like that, and it ended up doing 10 million, so a little less than they planned, but better than they, were kind of expecting. And then it did decently well, considering the fact they only spent it was like $500,000 to Toho or whatever it was.
I read an article that a lot of people thought it was going to be a sequel to 98. I don't know why they would put themselves through that again.
I don't either. Yeah.
But they actually
And the
thought it was a
trailer
sequel.
definitely should have told you this wasn't a sequel to 98 by any means.
Yeah. I don't know why. I'm like, how can they think that? But I'm like, well, who knows?
I mean,
You
the
know,
and the
maybe
trailer
later.
was awesome. Like the trailer they set up with Rob Zombie's Super Beast, which I think was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
For this
Yeah.
trailer for the film. So Toho, you know, they rushed this one into production. I mean, this one had
They actually spent $300,000
$300,000
to
okay.
to acquire the film.
Yeah.
But they spent $1 million on the re-edit. TriStar did.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So
Okay.
They did put some
Money into
it, but
$1 million on the re-edit. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Which I mean, they did. You know, I mean, as far as the dubbing, they moved some soundtrack stuff around. There was some things done when they brought it over here, like they tend to do, anyways. So I mean, it had a budget of what was about 15 million US Japanese, you know, in Japan it was like 1 billion yen or whatever. It ended up grossing over there like 1.6 billion, you know, or a little, you know, probably around 20 million. So not a, you know, a successful film, but not hugely successful. And then ended up doing, like I said, around 10 million. I think where Wikipedia had like $12 million or something like that. You know, overseas. So it did fairly decently well for it to, you know, about $15 million budget, brought in, you know, around $25 million, did pretty good. And it kind of went back to the roots of Godzilla. I mean, this was like a direct sequel to the original one. They negated everything prior to it. And this one, of course, was directed by Takao Okawara, which we are familiar with. He did Godzilla vs. Destroya. He did Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Godzilla vs. Mothra from the Heisei series. So they brought a familiar director back to do this one. And then, of course, it was written by Shogo Tomiyama, who's worked on most of the Heisei series. He works, I think, on the entire Millennium series, the series we're now in. He worked on almost every film, if I'm not mistaken, right?
You're asking. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know who you were asking.
Yeah.
there.
Just making sure. I was like,
You are not mistaken. How about that? How's
Okay,
that?
good.
You are not mistaken.
man, and another film that Takao Okawara did, and I do want to mention because I think I've mentioned it before, and we're just going to have to hit this film at some point, is he did Yamato Takeru in '94, the same year Space Godzilla came out, and I absolutely love that movie. Like, that is one of my favorite films from Toho. We're going to jump on that at some point. But so anyways, they bring Godzilla back. They kind of go back to formula with this one. You know, Godzilla shows up right at the beginning of the film, and our main characters, Yuji and his daughter Io, they have started the Godzilla Prediction Network. And what they do is they kind of track Godzilla's movement so they can kind of predict when he's going to show up as kind of a warning system. And with them is a reporter named Yuki. She's there on an assignment that she didn't really want, but it sounded like she kind of had to take. But then she ends up loving the assignment and becoming part of the Godzilla Prediction Network with Yuji and Io. And of course, Yuji's played by Takahiro Murata, who is a familiar face with Godzilla. I mean, he was in Godzilla vs. Mothra.
Yeah.
He had a small role in Godzilla vs. Destroya. Actually, in another one, I think in GMK, he's got a small role, as well as one of the main Godzilla films coming up as well. He's in as well. So he's in it and does a great job. As far as the lead actor, does a really good job in the role. And so Godzilla ends up showing up, and at the same time, you've got Godzilla's the GPN, the Godzilla Prediction Network. You also have the crisis unit for Japan, which is led by one of the other characters, Hiroshi Abe, plays Mitsuo, who leads that. And then this little right-hand man, Shiro, who actually was like a former, if I remember correctly, like a former college student and friend to Yuji, but they had a split, years ago, whatever. And of course, they are there to attack Godzilla. The Crisis Control Intelligence is. At the same time, when Godzilla first shows up, they get a report of this like ancient rock formation in the bottom of the ocean. And so the Crisis Control Unit, or the CCI, which Mitsuo and Shiro work for, they tried to bring this rock formation up. When they get it up to when it reaches the sun, what they don't realize is this is actually an ancient UFO. And has been lying dormant and at the bottom of the ocean. And now that it's gotten sunlight, it starts to recharge its batteries or rejuvenate pretty much, and comes back to life and takes off towards Tokyo, not before meeting Godzilla in Godzilla's second appearance, and has a quick little bout with Godzilla. And then goes to Tokyo, goes to the top of the CCI building, hacks into their network, and starts taking all the information of what's been happening on Earth for the last million years or however long it's been down there in the ocean. And it decides and realizes that it needs a body form to take over the planet, and knows after its interaction with Godzilla and the studies on the CCI networks that they have about Godzilla, there's no stronger creature in existence other than Godzilla. So its goal is, when Godzilla finally shows up to Tokyo, to take revenge after the first beating he got, during the pretty good, day fight against this alien, this UFO, that it's got to consume Godzilla. And it starts to do so and creates this, what would you call it? This UFO topped, octopus bottomed CGI something. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it was like it was like I was watching a mixture of the ship from Fly the Navigator with the creatures from the Abyss. Like it was like a conglomeration of those two things.
It was very, I don't know, unformed.
Yeah, very
type of deal. Yeah.
It was an interesting concept, but thankfully it was quick, because as it's starts to grow this way, it quickly starts to mutate into a massive creature that is dubbed Orga. Of course, it's dubbed Orga because one of the things that they find out through the movie is, after getting some Godzilla cells, is this regenerative properties, and they call it Organizer G1 is what they call it, and that's where the dubbed Orga comes from, is because that's what they say that the alien was after, was the Organizer G1 cells, the Godzilla cells. And then a battle ensues between Godzilla, the UFO, and Orga itself, and what is a pretty spectacular battle. And of course, Godzilla comes out victorious in what is one of the greatest, I think, victories, or because Godzilla realizes fighting Orga that as Orga, Godzilla blasts it with its heat ray and rips off part of its face. It just heals right back like Godzilla does, and so he realizes that's not enough. And when Orga opens its mouth at one point, wanting to swallow Godzilla obliges and just goes head first right down its throat. And when you're watching, you're like, what is it doing? But then you see, as Orga's starting to consume Godzilla, the spines light up. And you're like, oh, this is going to end bad. And that it does.
For Orga.
Oh, yeah. He eradicates Orga to nothing but a few limbs. And so he emerges victorious, and then walks right over to the building where our main characters are, Yuji and Yuki and Io and Mitsuo. And now Mitsuo, he's got a chip on his shoulder for Godzilla has the entire film. Of course, he leads the attack on Godzilla earlier in the movie, and Godzilla and him kind of have a little face-off that doesn't end well, because Godzilla smacks him right down with the building, and bye-bye Mitsuo. And then after that, there's a cool little speech about Godzilla being a part of us all, and then all of a sudden Godzilla's like, no, I'm not. And he just proceeds to just wipe out the rest of Tokyo in just an awesome nuclear blast. Just kind of stapling who he is and what he is. So it was a good film, man. It was a fun film. I don't think I've gone first in a while. I'll just go ahead and go first. I'll jump right into it.
Yeah. All yours.
To me, going back and watching this again, of course, I've seen it several times, but to me, after what happened in 98, this was a great thank you redemption from Tokyo. You gave us Godzilla back. Not only did you give us Godzilla back, thankfully to TriStar, even though they beefed it with 98, they brought this to theaters. So I was able to, as a teenager, to go see my first real Godzilla film in a big screen, and it was absolutely awesome. Sans the dubbing.
A first run Godzilla film.
Yeah. And it was super cool. So for me, I remember, just being at the theater, Carmike Theater in East Knoxville, waiting for the doors to open, and jumping in to see Godzilla 2000 was just absolutely just amazing for me. Again, sans the dubbing, but it's okay. The dubbing's still better than the entire 98 film in itself, so I can put up with it. But it was cool, man. We got a redesigned Godzilla, the first actual green Godzilla. And this was the 24th film, I believe. 24 films, and he's actually finally green for the first time, in live action, and looked great. Had these purple black metallic, spines that were massive, much more reptilian. His scales were a lot sharper and edgier, and this was also the first time where his nuclear ray was not blue. This was, I mean, never blue once in the film. It was actually an orange the entire time, which was kind of fresh, kind of cool. I liked that. I dug it. It looked great. And I mean, he shows up and he is who he is, man. He's Godzilla from the very beginning. One of the things I liked about the beginning of the movie is he shows up at a lighthouse with a ship in its mouth, a la, paying tribute to the beast from 20,000 Fathoms, which was super, super cool. And I love that about it. And every time he's on scene, man, it looks great. It's really good. There are issues I had with the special effects, but I'll get that in a second here. But I loved Godzilla every time he's on screen. The music was great. Now, it's not Akira Ifukube for the most part, but I mean, the score was absolutely awesome. And I love the characters, man. Takahiro Murata, man. I mean, he was, even though he was kind of a annoying character in Godzilla vs. Mothra in 92, that's the type of character he was supposed to have been. He did a great job. And I loved him in this. I thought he's super, super cool. When he does this little cameo later in Godzilla films, I'm like, oh man, like there he is. I was excited to see him.
He's become a familiar face, and you see him, and you know it's cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Hiroshi Abe as Mitsuo Katagiri, as Katagiri, the guy who runs CCI. I think he did a phenomenal job. He was supposed to be the bad guy, and he handled it extremely well. He did a good job with it. So I mean, he wasn't. He was a jerk, and that's what he's supposed to have been. So
and I think he played a pretty good. I wouldn't even say obnoxious, just somebody who was condescending, I guess would be the word.
Yeah,
but that's what he was supposed to be. I was listening to a commentary, and one of the commentaries says, "Well, we didn't want him to be the bad guy, but we had to they had to present him as an adversary anyway," and he did it very well.
And he did a great job at it. And I mean, even Io, the little girl that plays Io, Mayua Suzuki or something like that, she did a great job. I loved her attitude. Like at the beginning of the movie when they're in the car and the reporter's like Yuki, she's like going off about something, and Io just makes fun of her. Just, I mean, like almost calls her stupid. I'm like, this is great. I'm gonna love this kid. It was really good. I liked the characters. The characters were good. The plot was good. I mean, the plot's, it was nothing really fresh, nothing really new. I mean, Godzilla versus some alien force. Except, I felt like it was kind of a conglomeration. I mean, like the Godzilla versus an alien seemed to always work with Ghidra or Gigan, or Mechagodzilla. And then they want to kind of go with the Godzilla versus Godzilla because that was always successful for the most part. All the Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla films and even the Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. They try to make it a little bit different. So I mean, there was things I liked about the film. However, there was a lot I didn't like. It did feel rushed to me because I think Toho, they were in such a hurry to fix the oops from 98. It felt like they
had to save the franchise. They had to save the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, basically, they really did. That I feel like if they'd just waited another year, and understood, hey, we're fans, we're not going anywhere. We'll wait another year and spend a little more time on the story development and a little more time on the special effects. I think it could have been a much better film.
Was there any statement from Tristar with Toho coming out with this? Because, obviously Tristar's with them.
Well, I mean, Tristar took it and released it over here. They did the trailer and stuff. Or do you mean
no comments as far as going back to the Godzilla that we all knew compared to
not that
what they had came out with?
No, I don't think so.
I hadn't heard anything, but wasn't sure.
I mean, they should have seen, put out an official apology statement. That's what they should have done. And like Toho was going to fix it. But my issues with the film, though, I mean, as far as Godzilla himself, absolutely nothing. I love the suit design.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's great. And he's awesome on screen. I even dig the nuclear ray being orange. I mean, and some of the movements were cool. I mean, at one point he's kind of swaying and just slings his head to the right, almost like you'd imagine a rattlesnake cocking its head at, to bite you. And he just throws that nuclear blast out when he does it at the UFO. And it just looked awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of the miniatures were really good in this film. Some were not so good. Like when he's downtown fighting Orga, and at one point there's a skyscraper that's much taller than Godzilla, and the UFO is like kind of shooting an energy wave down and breaks the building on top of him. That shot is amazing. Like the structure and size of that building and that miniature set and Godzilla, it's just a beautiful shot. I'm like, man, I wish this could have lasted longer. But I mean, I had a lot of issues with the special effects. Toho, excuse me, tried to dab their hand into a little bit more CGI than they should have. The CGI shots of the UFO were just bad. I mean, a lot of the helicopters from the Japanese the Defense Force and the jets they used computer animation to superimpose it. Did not look good. There's even a scene of Godzilla coming out of the water during the day in that second attack. It's very clear he's superimposed over a green screen. And that really bothered me a lot. Orga's first transformation of the, abyss, octopus, glob, whatever, was poorly done. And then it just really stuck out. If it was just one or two things, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. But
I think that kind of comes with rushing this movie and trying to get this movie out so quick.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
it was the being rushed definitely showed in the special effects.
Yeah.
And that really bothered me. And then there was just a few cheesy moments that I'm just like, it's like, that speech at the end with that Yuji gives. Kind of like you're not Raymond Burr, man. Like you're not going to deliver the
I think
Raymond
that's
Burr
what
speech.
they were trying to pull off.
Yeah,
there,
it's like it's not going to happen, and it just wasn't, that wasn't delivered. Godzilla exists in all of us, I think is what something like that he says.
Yes.
I think Godzilla was like, oh, that was dumb. I need to do something. Let's destroy the rest of Tokyo. Let's end this on a high note. So there, my biggest issue is it did feel extremely rushed. I didn't really get anything super fresh from a Godzilla film. I mean, we haven't seen a real Godzilla in 5 years, I guess, technically. And I got nothing new. Orga was the cool concept of of an alien that's trying to turn into Godzilla. That was pretty sweet, but there's parts of that wasn't handled right, that I felt. Again, I got to go back to special effects, just drove me crazy. Actors weren't too bad. Like, they weren't horrible. I liked most of the characters, but there was no real development on the characters. I mean, like, Yuji and Io, the father and daughter who run GPN, where's mom? What made them want to do GPN anyways? It's like there was really no development there for me to be hooked or really get too deep with them. If he died in that explosion of the building later on in the film during downtown Tokyo, I'd be like, okay. Sucks, it happens. But I felt there was more development between Yuki and Io than than Yuji and Io. So I'm like, her mom died. Maybe that's why she's abrasive to Yuji at first, but then things change and those two become closer. And there was a lot of missed opportunity, I really feel like,
Yeah.
And when it comes to Godzilla and the Orga fight, while it is a great fight and I enjoy it, I felt like we didn't really, compared to some of the Heisei fights, come on, that did not touch, the Godzilla and Megagodzilla fight. Didn't even come close.
The fight wouldn't even make the top 10, probably, I think.
No, not
top 10 Godzilla
not
fight,
at all.
it wouldn't. Yeah.
No. And
Most
the only
definitely.
plus, and of course you got the dub version, which the dubbing is atrocious.
Yes,
It is
very
worse than anything from the show era.
I think it's probably could be the worst of all.
Wait till you watch the sci-fi channel version of GMK.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'm
give it a
wrong then.
chance.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong then.
It's pretty
Well,
bad, but
to point.
up to point.
Yeah.
Up to point.
Man,
It's definitely, I think, the worst dubbing we've seen.
You see, and the dubbing's bad. I'm not going to say it isn't, but man, I don't know. Some of that Showa dubbing, it was pretty bad to me. I don't know. I'd have to watch what I think is the worst from Showa and this one. to tell you. I'm trying to think. I mean, I immediately go to the Godzilla. Godzilla. Oh, here comes Godzilla. It doesn't get any worse than that.
I think I would totally take Godzilla over the guy who dubbed Katagiri at the end going Godzilla. Like I'm like, dude, like that was pretty rough.
But I think I'm starting to think Sludge just has a thing about films ending with somebody yelling. Like Revenge of the Sith and now this one. So I think you have a
if you're gonna do that,
you have a problem with that. Yeah.
It's got to be done great. I mean, you got to, even though I'm not a big fan of this movie, if you can't at least Mel Gibson it, with freedom, freedom,
Wow.
you know what I mean?
You can't. No, you can't compare that. I mean, that's.
Oh, I know it.
Darth
Come on,
Vader should have done
man.
better than that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Darth Vader should have done better than Mel Gibson. But neither hand, that's another battle for another.
So what you're saying is James Earl Jones is a terrible voice actor. That's what I'm getting from this. That's what I just.
That
heard.
wasn't James.
Well, but but James Earl
That wasn't
Jones, he doesn't have that kind of voice that can scream.
Yeah, they can
like
scream.
a freedom.
Are
At the
you
very
kidding?
end, I believe.
Like a freedom. No, he can't. It's
Go back and watch Coming to America, and then tell me again that man cannot scream at
well,
somebody.
man, yeah,
okay?
it's been a while since I watched that movie, so yeah.
So I want to say
I will back up. I will back up on that one.
Yeah,
that dude is scary if he wants to be.
yeah.
But so, I mean, the dubbing,
But I know what you're saying. But I just my only side note is I don't know if it's the worst.
it may not
I've
be the
ever heard.
worst.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's not the worst. But it's close to bottom of the gene pool.
And
but
now I'm very curious because from what I read is the dubbing that Toho sent over to international was even worse than this one.
yeah, I need to hunt that down.
That's why
check
they
that out,
did
too.
do it. So I'm gonna have to check that out now.
I kind of want to see that if it's that bad. So.
Apparently, from what I read, that the voices didn't match at all, and they just hacked it up badly.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
And it's funny because I guess maybe because I watched the commentary. Well, I hadn't finished watching it. I was watching I turned the commentary on the Blu-ray, and he was talking about that he wanted to get actors that sounded like the people on screen. He goes, I didn't want to get anybody that didn't sound right, and it seems like they went to a lot of trouble to try to get the voices to match. But I do think in the dubbing, they changed enough of the movie that it became a little, I don't know, muddy, I guess, as far as what was going on versus what was being said on the screen. So that might be why I'm a little more open to it not being the worst. But it wasn't good. I will give you that. It wasn't good.
No, I mean it was it was pretty rough. And then I mean Tristar, of course, when they brought it over, they did make some edits to it. Not a whole lot as far as the visually. I mean, I think this movie's like 8 minutes shorter. They just cut a few things just to kind of do what they do. Hasten the speed. But the sound design for the movie was almost completely redone. And I want to. There's moments where I need to honestly praise Tristar for this, but there's also moments where I want to be like, what in the world were you freaking doing? Like at the beginning when Godzilla's got the ship in his mouth and he bites down on it. If you watch in Japanese, there's no roar. Tristar threw a roar in there. His mouth doesn't move. You know what I mean? I'm like, what in the world? Like what, so there's moments like that through the movie that were horrible what they did. But then there's other moments like changing the soundtrack around, the new music in that was meant to supplement. Like they didn't take things of Hattori's music out, but they added things to supplement it. They did a great job. And one of the other things I do got to praise them for is they changed Orga's sound completely. Because in the Japanese it's real high pitched, whiny baby sounding, but in the TriStar version, he kind of sounds like a sick mutated T-Rex, from Jurassic Park or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's still better, But
and they also changed the sound of the actual UFO.
Yes,
too.
that's right.
Yeah, they did change that, and actually, like I got this from the commentary. They changed it on purpose because they wanted to give it a throwback to the old films of the 50s and 60s. old.
Yeah, because it was
You know.
not only the look, but the sound of it's also what made me think of Flight of the Navigator.
Yeah, yeah,
Was one of those
exactly.
things,
Yeah.
you know.
So,
But I mean, you know, so it wasn't bad, it wasn't great. I was so thankful, and it is very nostalgic to me that we got a good Godzilla film, you know, or at least the King of the Monsters back on screen. But I
Yeah.
did feel it was rushed. There were some special effects issues.
oh yeah,
Character development
ones.
missed. And because of it being rushed is why all this is issues to me. And then, you know, the story could have been a little bit better, but Godzilla looks absolutely freaking awesome. Orga looks great. The characters are still enjoyable. You know, I love that part of it. So that's what I got on the movie. Not the best, not the worst, you know, somewhere there in the middle.
Yeah.
Ruben, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. What? I like this movie, but it's got a lot of nostalgia for me because it's one of those movies that you guys. I always mention RJ at least once an episode. It's one of those movies that RJ that I got to see it through his eyes. You know, he got to see a new Godzilla film other than the Showa, and so that thing was on rotation. As a matter of fact, that was like one of my first DVDs. You know, my first maybe 10 or 12 DVDs that I finally got a DVD player.
The DVD artwork was awesome. I will say that Tristar did a great job with the DVD artwork. It looked so cool. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
So yeah. So I had that was like it was on rotation. I'd get home from work and it would be on, you know, along with other films that we won't get into just so we won't trigger Sludge. but that was one that was always on regular rotation. So I got to see it through his eyes. I love the suit design. I mean, that's one of my favorites of all the suit designs. I love the purple fins with the green, dark green, almost, you know, you didn't look at it close enough. You couldn't even see the green. You know, it just was an awesome shade that they used on that suit. I love the purple fins. I love that they turned his nuclear blast into red rather than the blue, which I don't mind either one. I just thought it looked awesome, especially when the fins light up, you know, when he's powering up.
Oh yeah, and the
so I
sound
really
it
like that,
makes,
yeah.
crackling.
Yeah, and the sound and the crackling sound. I mean, and when he supercharges up to get rid of defeat Orga, I think that's an awesome scene. And the acting, it was a Godzilla film. I don't have high hopes, even though the reporter actually won a Japanese Academy Award for Best New Actress, not for Godzilla, for another film, but so she's done other stuff. Yeah, she won the Academy Award, best newcomer, I believe it was best newcomer for 2001 or something like that. Something like that. Yeah. So she won the Academy Award, and she's done a Japanese Academy Award, I should say. And I'll look it up here in my notes in a little bit. But the special effects, though, they were jagged. They looked awesome in some parts. And then in other parts, you could tell, you know, that, oh man, you know, you just ruined it, you know,
right.
Like, like a lot of most of the tank stuff is CGI and looked great until like that scene on the beach where they all drive up. There's a whole bunch of tanks driving up and they all stop at the same time and they all do. I mean, it's, you know, they just they made one tank and multiplied it by 20. That's all they did. Put it on the beach.
Yeah.
You know, and that one scene that you talked about when he came on shore the second time, that was so obviously CGI. I mean, it was a blue screen and it was terrible. You know, it just seems that when they made this movie, there was times where I'm like, man, you know, they're really taking advantage of CGI and they're doing good here. But then they would expose themselves and do something, lack of a better term, half-assed.
Right. Yeah.
It was just like kind of like, man, you just could go out and you know, if you did this scene better, then why couldn't you do this one? I can't explain that away with the budget, you know. And it was even mentioned in the commentary that I had from the Blu-ray. The guy says, you know, they did so well here, but they didn't do so well here. And they ended up changing some things to hide some of that in the American version versus the Japanese version. So your assessment that it was rushed and that they didn't do they could have done a lot better is absolutely a spot on. But that said, I mean, first of all, I was just happy to get a new Godzilla movie. I was, after that 98 thing, I was like, man. But it was rushed, and I think it was rushed because of 98, because 98 came, though, what happened. And I do also think, though, and I can't prove this, this is just me theorizing. I think that they saw the toy sales in the U.S. jump after 98, with Trendmaster, with the classic Godzilla stuff, with the Godzilla Wars and all that. And I think they saw that, and they saw an opportunity to strike while the iron was hot, and right after 98 because of all those toys. And there wasn't much toys that came out for Godzilla 2000. That's the weird part.
No, yeah, not really until the Bandai America stuff happened
Yeah.
later.
Well, I think
and that's
only had
funny,
one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Godzilla 2000 toy, I didn't find one till years later. But that Trendmaster stuff was all over the place, and they would just, so I think, well, maybe they saw an opportunity there, and that's why they rushed it also. They rushed it to market because they wanted to be able to take advantage of the peak in interest, maybe is the right word, the right set of words I'm trying to use. But yeah, the acting I didn't think was all that great, and you're right, character development just wasn't there. You don't know, you don't really know what's going on as far as like why, how did that network come to be? I'd like to hear that. That would have been cool to hear that, their grandma maybe was killed in the 54 episode, because this is a direct link to 54.
Yeah.
So it would have been cool to say, well, my grandmother died in that. And maybe he was so obsessed with that he ended up divorcing his wife, and left them with the daughter. That would have been cool. I would have accepted.
Yeah,
that.
well, and I gotta add too,
As,
because
you know?
I did forget to bring this one up. Is they did, and Toho's done it multiple times with other Godzilla films. Is they'll do a manga adaptation of the film. The manga of this was much deeper because it does talk about how EO's mother passed away before its films.
Okay. I didn't know that.
And it broke down the Millennium alien much more. They were actually supposed to be like a collection of like a collective, almost like the Borg or something like that, of individual beings rather than one singular entity. And the mutation for Orga was supposed to be much more dramatic and disgusting, growing into a size of a Biollante-esque type monster at some point, much bigger than Godzilla, and actually swallows Godzilla whole, and Godzilla blows him apart from the inside in the manga. So I think they did try to kind of deepen it more with the manga
in the manga.
They should have done with the film.
And that goes, that even goes when they novelize stuff here in America, like all the Star Wars novelizations of the movies are, even the prequels there's so much more detail in there.
Yeah.
And you're like, why didn't they put that in the movie? They should have put that in the movie. It would have
been much better.
So yeah, and that stuff being missing, but all in all, thanks to the nostalgia factor and the design was really a big plus for me in my Stomp rating. The design of it, and the final form of Orga, even though their battle was not that spectacular, Orga's design was pretty cool. I really liked Orga's design. I'm not, you guys know, I'm not real big on bulky monsters. I just don't like it. That's what turned me off on Biollante, and it kind of turned me off on this one, but I thought the design was cool.
Right.
I think it was a cool concept. They could have, done better with it, but I thought, man, you know what? They did very well with this design. Whoever came up with that design really did a good job. The final design, the middle design, I could have done without, because it was, just like you said, a giant glowing octopus is basically what it was.
Yeah,
it was plasma. I guess it was plasma, or whatever you want to call it. It would have been cooler if it would have gotten some kind of he tried to mimic Godzilla without getting DNA or something, and try to go somewhere in between there. That would have been cooler, even if they would have thrown another monster in there that maybe Orga would have defeated, destroyed, and took over. You know, that would have been cool too, and that would have been, I think, a better, maybe get Anguirus involved, get him killed, but then Orga takes that form first. Or
Man, it
some
would have been great to
form
have
of it,
Anguirus
but
in
just
here.
bigger,
Just bringing him back.
just a big giant, a big distorted zombie Anguirus, type of deal. That would have been all right. But us as fans, we're always coming up with stuff like that. That's just the way it is. But all in all, I mean, I really enjoyed the film. I think I gave it a high stomp. I gave it the highest stomp rating of us three, and it had to do mostly with the nostalgia and the suit design, and I really didn't think the CGI was. I would call it 70-30, 30% bad, 70% of the CGI was great, and I really like what Toho did with the Godzilla in general. As far as CGI suit and the new found I guess Godzilla supercharged Godzilla and the glowing fins and stuff was pretty cool. So that's what I liked about it. It had a lot of negatives, and that can't be hidden, and it was rushed. But all in all, man, I really like this film. And I really like it. I rate it up there with some other ones. So that's all. I think that's all I've got. I might come up with something else a little later. I can't think of nothing else.
I'm always short and sweet, so you'll find something. So
Yeah, Mark, what about you?
Yeah. Well, when we were talking, I think you mentioned this is the 24th.
I think right.
film.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you're in that 1998
21st.
club. This is actually the 23rd
Well, okay.
Toho
Yes,
Godzilla
but
film.
man,
Just want to make that point available. That I'm not a part of that club. This
Jeez.
is number
Yeah.
23. Number 23.
All right, so now I got to know now. Then, I mean, if we're going that route, do you consider Final Wars as one?
Of course, I do.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it has to
it's
be. It
got
has
the
to
Sony
be.
TriStar in it, though.
Well, it does, but yeah,
Okay.
I do count it.
Okay.
Well,
I don't
it's got.
count, I don't
wait
count
a minute.
98 though. I don't count
in
98.
Final Wars, it's not
Oh,
Godzilla.
I knew he was gonna
That's
break this.
Zilla. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring that up. I knew you were going to do that.
No way. Final Wars does not have. You can't say that. So, no way. In Final Wars, he is disposed of properly in Final Wars.
Yes,
Well,
he
that's
is.
true. That- okay.
And what's
Yeah.
arguably the best, 30 seconds of the film.
Yeah, this movie I thought was a pretty decent movie. I mean, it was middle of the road, I think, if I could say that.
Mhm.
I mean, just looking Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 5.6 out of 10. We're looking at our rankings here. We're about middle of the road, and I think Toho could have or should have, agreeing with you, took a little more time, brought a bigger film out to kind of blow off that 98.
Yes. Yeah.
And it would have made it a lot better. But I am in major agreement as far as the CGI goes. Hit and miss, just depending on where you were at in the movie. I think the Godzilla suit was just, I loved it. He's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite suits.
Yeah, it's a great looking suit.
And the only problem I have with when they change these suits and these designs, and then they change the color of the blast, and I don't really like that. I think Toho should have just kept it one all the way through. This red, orange, this fire looking, I love that. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But that's Toho, and that's not me, and that's what I would have done. Just kept him this, pretty much
Just
the
for
same.
continuity's sake, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I really loved the all the overhanging fangs, like an alligator.
Yeah.
Like that was a
Oh, yeah.
cool thing about the
Yeah.
mall on this
Oh,
one.
he looks vicious.
Oh, he
Just
does.
vicious in it, and
Yeah.
just fantastic. The acting was so-so. Nothing really popped out, or anything popped out great on me. I was looking at their awards. The best they got was nominated for a home video award, and that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind
It was.
Wasn't that a Saturn award, I think?
Yeah, it was a
Okay.
Saturn award.
Yeah.
Yes, and so I mean, it was just so. It was something I think everybody was probably looking for as far as coming after the 98. And I think, Ruben, you had made a comment. You thought that it was a sequel that was actually
a lot of people did
from that. From that. And even though a sequel was made for Godzilla 2000, but it never.
Well, yeah, the guy who headed up this for TriStar had written a script for one, and was actually going to be the first actual, not the first American Toho conglomeration of a film. That's actually The Last Dinosaur, which is a great movie in my opinion. But it was the first Godzilla film where it was going to be Sony and Toho working together. Toho was going to do the special effects, and I think Joe Dante was who was going to do. I think was going to direct the film, which I think would have been a brilliant idea. I mean, come on, he did Gremlins, like he would have been great directing a Godzilla film.
Right.
But I think eventually they ended up during the process, because originally I think it got greenlit. It got the go ahead from Toho, but I think it originally got the go ahead from Sony. But then they got like a new CEO or something, and that CEO was like, "No, this is stupid," and then canceled it or something like that. Yeah. So it was supposed to be Godzilla.
Good job, Sony.
Returns or Godzilla Reborn or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was.
Godzilla Reborn, I think that's what it was.
Okay. I just knew that there was an unproduced
sequel.
So Godzilla Reborn is what it was going to be called. So
which could have been so cool.
I remember that. That's right.
Yeah,
I do recall that.
Other than that, I mean, the dubbing, horrible, horrendous. And of course we've already kind of voiced this.
It was rough.
On that where we were at.
So let me ask y'all this, since y'all gave it lower ratings than I did. If you would have watched a Japanese version, would it still gotten the same score?
No, I would like. I haven't watched the Japanese version, and I would like to watch it. I think you do have it on the Plex.
Yeah, it's
do
on
you
there.
not? Yeah, and I think I'm going to watch it, and I'll let you know. It's the next.
I'm just
episode.
curious if that would change.
Yeah.
How much dubbing was affected your guys' ratings and the whole thing?
For me, where the dubbing docked or dinged it for me, the nostalgic factor in Godzilla's design brought it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I got you.
They definitely balanced each other out. I think.
I still want to see that Japanese version and see.
It's really worth a look. I know I text Sludge and I told him I think I like the American version better, but.
Which was weird. I thought he was on drugs.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. I did. But it's that nostalgic feel to it. I think that it loses some of that in the Japanese version. Oh, and I don't know why. It's kind of really hard for me to say that I prefer the American, because I really like the Japanese version. I do. I think the stuff that they cut out, some of it I thought they should have left in, like I mean, it was kind of dumb, but it was like, well, like the computers all said Millennium on it.
Yeah.
When he was in there,
that's
the
name of the aliens. They negated
that's the name of the alien.
Yeah.
It's Operation Millennium, right? I think it's what the aliens call it. I say, you know what? That was pretty cool. They should have left that in there. And I think the Japanese version delves a little bit deeper into their past, the two guys where they went to college together and stuff. Not much, but a little bit. So there was some stuff in the Japanese version, but I thought the sound effects were better in the American version. Not the soundtrack, but the actual sound effects. Like that scene where the second time he comes on shore and they're shooting missiles on him. They're shooting missiles at him. I'm sorry. They're shooting missiles at him. In the Japanese version, it's just like a thump. These missiles are hitting them.
Yeah.
And it's just like a thump, thump, thump. And in the American version, there's an actual explosion. And I'm like, well, that's more what I expect than what I saw in the Japanese version, and I saw it, that's pretty cool. So
there are moments where TriStar again, that they deserve a little bit of credit for things.
I think what did I say? They spent like $1 million
re-editing the film.
The film.
Yeah,
and I got was all a part. Some of that stuff in there.
Yeah, and like I said, I got a lot of insight watching that documentary. Like they said that in that one scene where they're in the tunnel, apparently in the Japanese version, he comes out of that and he spins around. The Godzilla's chasing him into the tunnel and his feet are coming through the tunnel. You know that scene?
Yeah.
Well, that little truck comes over that hump and does a spin around and ends up doing a 180 and it's facing the other way. And then they cut to another scene where they're looking at Godzilla and the truck's turned around. Yeah, they said, well, that that just threw away all the continuity. So we had to fix that in the American version. Yeah, and not only that, but they added the rocks. They said when there was an avalanche, there was hardly any, there was just avalanche. He goes, so we added like it hit a guardrail. So they did, a rock hitting a guardrail and the rocks hitting the top of the hood of the car, of the truck or whatever SUV that they had. And I'm like, you know what? And I watched both versions. I said, you know what? Those were actual improvements from the Japanese version. So, I can't say I dislike the Japanese version. And you know what? I might wake up tomorrow and say I prefer the Japanese version. It's just the way it is. But there was some things in there that got cut out that I said, I wish they wouldn't have cut that out. They cut out a version. It took her like, I don't know, an extra 3 minutes to walk to the Godzilla network office there. And then they ignore her in the Japanese version. They ignore her for another minute or so. And in the American version, they just cut all that out. They went straight to where she's sitting down signing up for the network. Yeah. For a fee. and so I said, you know what, that didn't need to be there. It just didn't. So I mean, but I do think the Japanese version is really worth a look, and I think most people would probably prefer that.
Well, I'm definitely going to do. I'm definitely going to do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's worth it.
Yeah. The movie is. I think it's a pretty decent movie. I'm not disappointed with it.
Yeah. No, I mean I enjoy the movie. Definitely.
But I could, wanted something more.
Yeah.
Wanted something more at the time.
Well, but then again, back then the bar was knocked
pretty
over,
low.
put on the floor, stomped to the ground, buried under 3 feet of sand, and so the bar wasn't set very high.
Well, it was high enough that you guys went out and bought a few characters now, didn't you?
Okay. You got one too now.
I didn't buy it.
I didn't either, to be honest. It was given.
Oh, wait. I pulled up to a car and there was a magazine there. And
whatever.
Just want to say.
So, I mean, the bar was so low at this point that the Bartzilla appearance in Simpsons was greater,
Yeah. So
well, that's me. I'm good.
So it was. So I mean, it was. I remember when it came. It was like cool. And then you mentioned it, the trailer for it that came out with Rob Zombie's Super Feast was on it. Man,
actually, I think
pumped up.
Well, and it's not. I think obviously you guys listening just heard it. This is the first Japanese Godzilla film that I think used the full English trailer, didn't I? Did I do some of the other ones?
I think you did. Yeah.
I
don't know.
Because I know a lot of them I tried to use the Japanese, but man, I had to use the American one. Yeah. Like, the Super Beast soundtrack was great. It was so good. So.
Yeah. So
well, all right, man. Well, so, you guys, anything else on this one?
No, I'm good.
Well, we gave this one, guys, a 3. I mean, it's a solid 3. Like I said, down the middle of the road. Well, a little more. 2.5 is technically middle of the road. Yeah. So I mean, it's a great watch. It's still fun. There's definitely worse Godzilla films, and there's definitely better Godzilla films. This was much better than what we got the year prior, from '98. So this definitely was a saving grace from Toho. Thank you for bringing the King back. And it kickstarted another series. Another saga of films, the Millennium Saga. We've got 5 more in this saga to do before we hit legendary, pictures, the MonsterVerse. The next one, of course, being Godzilla X Megaguirus. And all these films in the Millennium series, aside from Godzilla X Megagodzilla and Tokyo SOS, which is a direct sequel to that one, these are all kind of on their own. I mean, there's no continuity in this whatsoever. Yeah, because the next one negates this film and just ties directly to the original 54, and it actually makes
even though they use the same suit for Megaguirus.
Yeah, same suit.
Right.
It negates this one completely. Then you got GMK, which is a personal favorite of mine because you got Shusuke Kaneko, who did the 90s Gamer trilogy, finally coming over and doing a Godzilla film like he wanted. Well, not exactly like he wanted, but like he wanted. We'll get to that when we get there. So, and then you got the Godzilla against Megagodzilla for the third time around, and then its sequel, Godzilla Tokyo SOS. And then, of course, you got the 50th anniversary film, Godzilla Final Wars. and none of them have any. There's no continuity aside from the Godzilla films. There was a direct
Right.
sequel, but they were all kind of just one and done films, but they're entertaining, and some more than the others, and we'll get into them definitely. But yeah, 3 stops for this one. We definitely recommend. I mean, like we recommend any Godzilla movie, go watch it,
Yeah.
except for '98.
Oh
If it's
I mean,
Godzilla,
Yeah, if it's
Watch it.
him himself.
Yeah.
But,
Godzilla is a franchise that really you can pick a movie depending on your mood. And
Yeah,
it's
you really
gonna be
can.
great. You know that you can, like, hey, I feel, it's the mood, the weather, what's going on in the world, or what I mean, Godzilla's got a little bit of everything in its whole entire franchise. And it's one of those deals that one of those movie franchises that, like, it just really depends on how you feel. It might not be a Godzilla 2000 day. It might be a Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, or it might be a, Final Wars kind of day. It's just,
Right.
it's really, the Godzilla franchise it's up there for me because of that, and I'm a big geek, the Star Wars franchise, the Godzilla franchise. I'm not so much a Star Trek guy, but I know a lot of people are. I'm a big Planet of the Apes franchise guy. It's just, it's great. And Godzilla is up there for me.
Definitely
it-
is.
Yes.
I think only Star Wars, as far as I'm concerned, only Star Wars can rival it for me as far as quality of the franchise, as a whole. So
We could,
it's great.
yeah, quality
Right.
for the
But
trilogy.
but I
and
have
Mandalorian.
one thing. I have one last thing to say. It's going to be a shots fired across the Sludge's hall. When you're talking about GMK, well, he came to direct a real monster movie
From the
GMK.
Gamera films.
From the Gamera films.
We'll open that can of worms in 2 films.
that's right.
Don't worry. So,
I'm
but,
reminded of that scene in Rocky 3 when he's retiring and Mr. T tells Adrian, "Why don't you come over to my house and I'll show you what a real man is." And then all hell breaks loose.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
But-
I can't wait for that one.
I'm
But
stoked for that
I
one.
like Gamera. But I do like Gamera. You guys know that.
Yeah.
But still, I thought about it. I'm oh boy.
No,
so.
no. Well,
It's good.
the Gamer films will probably be brought up on the episode.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely so.
No, I'm sure. Yeah.
But all right, well, man, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Definitely go check it out. Like I said, there's a lot of fun stuff and great stuff to watch in this film. So much that even the things we didn't like can be overlooked, and you can enjoy the movie for sure. So, but definitely, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And of course, we'll be back here in 2 weeks with Colossal and Anne Hathaway. I'm interested to do this one, so to see how it turns out, and we'll let you know if we think this is awesome or stupid, or we don't know.
will see.
We'll
We
see.
will
Yeah.
see.
And again, to Justin, if it wasn't for Anne Hathaway, Justin, I might put up a fight for this.
Just letting you know.
Yeah,
and we'll
just letting you
and
know.
we'll find out if Anne can save it. We don't know. We'll find out.
That's-
We will
that's
know
right, yeah.
shortly.
So, but it'll be pretty good. Pretty excited about this one. So, all right, well, guys, again, thank y'all so much for listening. And again, of course, stay tuned. Next weekend we do kick off another show or start another show here at Sludgecast called NPC. That will be debuting next weekend as well. Going to be a little different, than most things. We're going to, be talking about real world things, and it's going to be just a totally different type of show in its entirety than what the Monster Movie Stompdown is. But of course, you'll continue to get the Monster Movie Stompdown twice a month. But hopefully, if the new show's your thing, hopefully you'll enjoy it. If not, just wait 2 weeks, and we'll be right back with another
Right
one.
back on it.
So,
Yeah.
and this is Sludge.
And Mark,
You got Ruben in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Y'all have a good night.
have a good one.
Good night.
We have a Hulk.